So here we are. I'm walking with Thesa. I'm gonna see if this works to video because I was just asking a question to her, so I'm gonna repeat it. My question was.
You were actually having an insight. It wasn't really a question.
Yeah.
You were just sharing an insight.
That I'm noticing as I keep learning from Thesa, I'm noticing that some days my reality gets really specific, almost like OCD, like I'm breaking things down into pieces, and I'm noticing very specific aspects of creation, and I'm merging them. And there's different combinations. There's all these different aspects of creation, especially potentially like aspects of the spiritual awakening journey. Like potentially one day I might be focused on releasing my separate sense of I, merging with infinity. The past few days I feel like I'm really focused on bridging polarities. Like everywhere is always like there's things to merge, so my question for Thesa was, I guess I was feeling like source or emptiness or infinity is like this, feels like a creeping, crawling organism that's like, and so I said that to Thesa, and do you remember what you said in response?
Well, just feeling it again, feeling it into it again in the present. Emptiness doesn't really have qualities like creeping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, infinity, what we're calling infinity, and emptiness being the same. But my insight and experience has been when we're in separation, there's this natural call to return to unity, because that's the foundational desire of creation, right? Is to be unified. So what feels to you from the point of separation of infinity kind of creeping around is actually just the natural law of returning to unification from a point of separation. And that happens in cycles because, you know, there's all this information that is relating to one another in separation, right? So in order to return to unification, it doesn't just go, there's like, this piece can come back into unification, that piece can come back into unification, that piece, and now that piece. Mm-hmm. Now that we've built this foundation, that piece can come back in. But there's not like there's somebody there organizing the whole thing. It's just law that's inherent into the creation.
I think I was feeling, I guess I'm almost surprised sometimes about how is it being broken down this moment? Like today I was feeling like a sadness, almost like a longing for partnership, for a relationship. But I feel like I'm now able to, I'm not just feeling a longing for a relationship or a longing for a relationship. I'm actually now seeing the whole spectrum. Like, there's me, and then there's this part of that longing, and there's this part, this part. And then it's a spectrum leading all the way up to what I want. And I almost feel soothed. Like it's like soothing my PTSD because I'm like able to rest and like I'm merging with, like pretty quickly after I feel the longing, then I actually see the whole spectrum and I land on the first step of the spectrum. And it's almost like I'm kept busy lately.
Yeah.
I don't have to spend like days in depression or sadness because there's my next step. You know?
Just recognize that there's steps along a cycle, a progression that's natural.
Yeah. That's so cute. And I actually see here's our bridge we're about to walk over in the distance. Yeah.
I want to add to that.
So it feels like a bridge. Go on, Thesa.
Because I feel like that's the beautiful thing about astrology. Astrology is actually showing us the waves that are coming out of infinity, if you want to look at it like that, and hitting us like, okay, this is the piece to focus on now. And they all hit us in different ways based on who we are, what level of unification and separation that we're in, you know? And then those waves that spark us to focus on certain aspects or to unify certain things or, you know, go through certain initiations at certain times.
So there is a divine order in this, however we're being led to unify. And what came to me earlier was, if I wasn't able to listen to those subtler layers of the spectrum, and maybe it's not always a spectrum, it's probably like a sacred geometry that changes all the time, but if I wasn't able to listen to that, it's almost like a source, it needs to speak to me through intense challenge.
Right.
Or then all of a sudden there gets to be a traffic jam of layers or stimulus or calling. There's a calling for unification, I'm calling.
Yeah.
I'm calling. And there's like 1,500 layers that are waiting to be unified. And then like, bam, there's a traffic accident or something.
Yeah, exactly. It builds up.
Oh. And yeah, just to give a moment of context. Well, yeah, just what I learned from Thesa is just a few simple things that have helped me enter the gateway to learning how to navigate all this, and then it keeps deepening, and then I keep learning more, and but I'm amazed that the gateway is quite simple.
Well, the formula is so basic,
Yeah,
but then it applies to every single crevice and morsel of creation, and then when it's applied to that particular experience, something new always blossoms out of it, so it makes everything really exciting and mysterious and constantly new and spontaneous, right?
yeah, right as we were getting out of the car and putting Thesa's baby in the baby carrier, I even looked at the love between Thesa and Sia, and I felt this. They were making these real subtle eye gazes at each other and these little looks and twitches, and I, for the first time, thought, wow, love isn't just love. Love is a spectrum, and especially a baby is going to have all these subtle frequencies or subtle energies of love. And I think because Thesa is so sensitive or tuned in, especially tuned into Sia, her baby, you can enjoy all these different little micro qualities.
That's what it feels like to me. Sometimes there'll be one tiny movement in her being, and I feel it in myself, and it's like sharing a secret together, you know? And we go, oh, what was that? It was like this micro movement of being that we shared together, and we both get it, and
Okay, so I have one other question to conclude this video, and it's sort of the Shazam question, but so traditionally, is there a path that says just ignore or obliterate all of these little details? Don't pay any attention to them? Is that sort of like more of a traditional male, masculine guru sort of path? Because sometimes it feels like what I'm actually saying is the exact opposite of certain teachers that I know.
right.
Because I'm saying like, oh my God, like lick up every little molecule and frequency and then immerse it.
Well, I would, from my perspective, I see that as one phase of a greater journey. And that phase is important because when you're skipping over all the details, if you keep letting go and letting go and letting go of all the manifests and all the details, eventually you'll disappear into the unmanifest. And then you will realize that, which is the tough thing in this world, because it's the manifest that's so apparent, you know? So most traditions are saying, hey, stop focusing on what's apparent so that you can realize what's not apparent, which is you, which is actually you know? So when you let go, and it's important to have phases of doing that, just letting go until there's nothingness or emptiness, and then letting go of the one letting go until emptiness is the only thing that remains. Because then, and only then, does the manifest world come into proper perspective. And then you can realize, oh, I'm also the manifest world, but it's different to realize that from knowing that your emptiness
Yeah.
versus identification
Got it.
with a manifest world. So, but I think for me the problem has been when we stop
Yeah.
at that and go, I'm the unmanifest to the exclusion of whatever, you know?
So in a being's journey, that being might actually do that many, many times. Or is it
Yeah.
just a once in dying to the manifest and once out?
No,
or is it
no.
again and again?
No, I think my experience matches what I know of some of the Buddhist models, I guess, models of consciousness, where there's various levels of enlightenment, let's say, right? And those levels of enlightenment correspond to levels of realization of emptiness. So usually it's not that it's the awareness that's realizing emptiness, right?
Ooh.
So it's not that the awareness realizes emptiness, the deepest level, and then bang, everything hits. It goes, okay, I can handle this piece, you know?
Yeah.
This is one level.
Yeah.
And then once that level of emptiness is realized, there needs to be an embodiment of that level. And when the embodiment of that level is actualized, it's a state of being. It's an ecstatic state of being. So some people will say, forget the states of being. States of being are not important. But the states of being show you what level of embodiment you've achieved of the unmanifest. So they are important. They're really important feedback. It's important not to identify with them and get stuck.
Yeah.
Because then you can't go to the next level. But yeah, so I think the Buddhists talk about 17 different levels of enlightenment, and I haven't tracked my own, but there's definitely different levels of it. Yeah. Oh, sorry, baby.
Poopy. Cool. Do you have anything else to share?
I feel empty in this
Yeah.
moment.
Yay. Tee-too.
Yeah.